I'm Simon, and we're here in Granny's house, and we're going to be demonstrating some lighting techniques. Now, for the purpose, Rob here is standing in for Granny, and we are in a room facing the sun with windows all across the side here. And as you can see, Rob is lit quite well. It's slightly shaded on this side, but luckily the walls are white, so they're bouncing some of the light back. Now, you might not have that when you're at Granny's. They might have some beige or red wallpaper, and so it'll bounce that back instead. So what you can do to raise the level of light and also to cut any colour cast which is coming from the wall is to place in a white card. And as you take it away, you can see the shadow on Rob's face, bring it in, and it lightens it up slightly. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to demonstrate the same techniques, but a little later in the day, when the sun has started to go down, sort of mid-evening. And here we are, back in Granny's, but this time the sun has dropped, and as you can see, the shadows are forming on the wall. There's just a small amount of light coming on Granny, and the dark side of the face is getting darker. Now, if we bring in our board again and bounce some more light on, it still improves a little bit, but the overall illumination isn't very good. So there are multiple things we can do to help with that. Now, the first and most obvious thing is to turn on the light in Granny's house. So, let there be light. There's light. Now, as you will see, we've gone quite orange because the colour temperature in the room is different. Inside we have yellowy lights, outside we have blue daylight, and we have a mixture coming in at the moment. Rob here is looking a little orangey creamy, so the only thing we can do now is to re-white balance the cameras so we can see what they look like. And here we are. The cameras are re-white balanced for a combination of the exterior light coming in and the light that's inside the room. So Rob should look a little bit normal, though it's not perfect because it is a compromise. Now, problem still arises about lighting. This time he has some light coming from outside, but quite a lot of it's coming from the top of the room down. So it's filling in some shadows underneath his eyes. So what we can do with that is bring our bounce board in again. And this time bounce it a bit lower, so the light comes in, fills part of the side of the face, but also fills in underneath his eyes. See? Just slightly increasing the exposure. Now, this doesn't always work. And in case of hardly any light coming in, only the light above, we need to compensate for that with artificial lights. So that's what we're going to do next. And now we're in darkness, so let there be light. So now we're in Granny's home and we have complete lighting from above. Now you might find that we are still a little bit orange because now there's no daylight coming in, there's no mixture, so it's always best to re-white balance again. So let's do that. Thank you, Rob. So, as you can see, we've now got the light, but the exposure is a little off, so we need to increase the exposures on our cameras. So first, our main one here, so you can see myself and Rob in beautiful lighting.
Still on.
Okay, now as you can see, we're in Granny's home, it's dark outside, so we're just using the illumination in her house. Now, as you can see with Rob, the light is quite bright as it comes down into his face, then it slowly goes off the further away it goes. So it's not very bright at all. So there's not a lot we can do. We'll bring our bounce board in again and see if we can bounce any light in. We can get a little bit from the lights that are above, but not a great deal because they're not very powerful. So, in this kind of situation, as long as you've got an exposure, you can probably go ahead. But to be honest, what we need to do is add some artificial light. So, I'm going to go and get some artificial light. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so here we are. The light is now set up over here. But of course, as you can see, the colour temperature is way off. Now what we need to do is turn the main house lights, which is the house main overhead lights, off first. And bring on the artificial light that we brought with us. Right, as you can see, Rob is now illuminated, but of course, he's now gone a little blue because the light itself is a daylight lamp, which you can also use to enhance the lighting during the daylight if the bounce board doesn't work. So what we now do is going to white balance the cameras again so we can get Rob in his full Technicolor glory. Okay. Thank you, Rob. Now, as you can see, we've now colour corrected so everything looks correctly. It's all white and the light up here is illuminating Rob fully. But of course, there's still a little bit of shadow on this side. Now, if you want to get rid of that, or at least soften it, you can bring in the bounce board again. And as you can see, you can just take off that excess shadow so it's not quite as dark. Now, this is why you need to bring somebody along on your team to help you. There's always something to hold and there's always something to move.